BookTube, it's Louise the Big Hair Bookworm. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good day. So, I mentioned in a video that I was thinking about doing a video about ratings and how you might rate a book. And the ratings that I see on BookTube, in particular, the 5-star rating system that is so common because of Goodreads. So, I'm going to declare up front that I am not a huge Goodreads person. So I think I've joined a group, but I've never kind of contributed to it. I don't write reviews on Goodreads. I occasionally look them up. I basically use Goodreads as my electronic counter of books. And I quite like it for that, because after I've read a book and I put in there that I finished it, I can have a look at a couple of other reviews if I'm that bothered. And I might have a look at an author if I don't know them and see what other books they've written. Or that's about it. I have been considering coming off Goodreads altogether because I'm not sure why I'm on it. I do have difficulty with the rating systems. Now, so between you and me, I've been quite worried about this video because it is such a personal thing. How people rate a book is so linked in with their sense of themselves as a reader and how they judge things, and so it's so personal. It's about how you felt about it, either how you felt about the writing style, how you felt challenged or comfortable, how much you've enjoyed the book, even down to that. So people rate books, as we're talking about it, because of who they are. It only comes, I believe, that when you rate a book, you are showing something about yourself. That's why I'm fascinated by books that people recommend, because it says something about them, and that's what I'm always interested in. So I like hearing what other people say about books, and I am utterly fascinated by people's ratings. It really started for me when I joined BookTube and I saw these people saying, I gave this 3 out of 4 stars, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, or I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. And it was when it didn't connect. So they would say, I'm sorry, I've got a glass of water here. So it wouldn't connect. So they would say, for example, not anybody in particular, this is nobody in particular. It would be a video I would watch and they would say, I really didn't get on with this book. I found it really difficult to read. I didn't like this about that character. The ending annoyed me. The writing style was bad. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And I'm like, what? Or it really wasn't very good. I found it really hard to read. I couldn't get into it. The ending was okay. I gave it 2 out of 5. Or I'm saying I wouldn't recommend this book. I've got real problems with it. I think that, the lack of diversity, or the characters are two-dimensional, and relationship's weird, and there's violence and nastiness, and I gave it 2 out of 5. And I'm like, what does the book have to do for you to give it a 1? I mean, how affronted do you have to be to give a book 1 out of 5? And that's what started me thinking about it, because I was thinking, it makes no sense to me. And even when people explain the rating systems, it doesn't really make sense to me. I saw one video, and this, I have to say, was one of my favourite moments ever on BookTube, and I can't even remember who it was. They rated a book 3.61 out of 5. 3.61. 3.61 out of 5. I mean, that's just amazing. What have I done to my hair? I mean, look, it made me do that with my hair. I've got all like this. I was like, 3.61? I mean, what was it about that book that they thought, no, it's not worth 3.62. Oh, no, but it's better than 3.6. I thought I would like that person to come round, have a cup of tea with me, and talk me through how they view books, because they must have such an understanding of books and what books mean to them to be that precise. I don't think I've ever been that precise about anything. Maybe that's my problem. I'm not that precise about anything. Anyway, that's one of my problems about it. The other problem I have with it, and this is, as I say, this is just my opinion, is that what I would give, I'd probably give quite a lot of ones for a start, but I also would struggle with what is a 5-star, even 4.5 or 5-star. I love people that want half marks. Because I read A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas last year, and I have read it quite a few times since, and I think it's great. And I happily on Goodreads gave this, I finished reading it and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Now, there are so many problems with this book. There are so many problems, but my reading experience is one of joy when I'm reading this. I just think it's brilliant because it's so much fun. And when I went into it, it gave me what I wanted. So I'll give you some other 5 out of 5 stars that I would give. That I would just say it's such a good book. And now you can see why I have a problem. Persuasion by Jane Austen. They're both romances, and they're both books, so they could be compared. But I mean, it feels almost wrong to have them both in the same picture, because you wouldn't compare that with that, and yet I'd give them both 5 stars. Now you do that, you do Jane Eyre and Persuasion. That you could work with, couldn't you? But that as well? No. I mean, honestly, I feel wrong doing that with them all together. Some other 5 out of 5 stars that I would give. So I really like Patricia Cornwell, and this is one of my favourite Patricia Cornwell's, Postmortem. And I think it's a great crime book. And if you like your kind of forensic science crime books with a pathologist, you like a feisty female, then Patricia Cornwell's Dr. Kay Scarpetta series is great. In particular, I really like Postmortem. And I think I really enjoyed Gone Girl as a thriller, and I would say there's similar things about it. Is they're kind of like, it's that kind of thrilling read, but I really think this is very badly written. However, I really enjoyed reading it and would have given it 5 out of 5 because it was what I wanted at the time. But if we're talking about crime, you can't compare, Upside Down, you can't compare Postmortem by Patricia Cornwell to The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. And yet, I do apologise for this edition, but you couldn't compare crime and crime books. You couldn't. So, for example, I love, BookTube, you and I both know, we know how much I like Soulless by Gail Carriger. I love the Victorian stuff. Wilkie Collins, I love the Victorian stuff, but we can't compare that and Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber. I mean, they're both 5 out of 5 reads for me. They're both really enjoyable, but you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't compare the two. So I do end up having these difficulties, and any of them, apart from, I mean, this is one of my favourite books, as is, bear with, my lovely, I mean, these are, one of my favourite books ever. But I've got another book here that's one of my favourites. And yet you can't compare them because they're so different. They're so different. Different writing styles, different writing standards, just the depth that goes into them. And yet they're 5 out of 5. So how can we do it? How can we do it, BookTube? I just don't know. So that's why I don't give ratings for my books. So, have I ever give ratings in my book? Well, I offer this as a different way of rating books. And I'm not saying this is the way forward. I'm not saying that we can all do this. But I started a book club with my husband and some friends. This is 15 years ago, and we lasted quite a long time. We lasted a good kind of 7 or 8 years in this book club, and we were really good, and we read a real huge variety of books. But we came across that difficulty of how do you rate a book? How do you recommend a book in a way that people could really understand? So we came across 2 different ways that we could recommend a book, and I offer these to you. So there is a story of a I used to work in a bookshop, and somebody came in and they asked for, have you got Lionel Richie in the wardrobe? I beg your pardon? Have you got Lionel Richie in the wardrobe? No. By C.S. Lewis? No, but we do have The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. So it was no. So this was one of the standing jokes of the group. Because I was a bookseller, I had many stories of such things. But so we had this one, Lionel Richie in the wardrobe, and it began very soon after the book club started. He became kind of like our mascot or our patron saint of the book club, and we began to wonder: could you recommend this book, our recent read, to Lionel Richie, and what would Lionel Richie like? And it made us think about books in a really different way. So, for example, Wolf Hall, Hilary Mantel. Would you recommend this to Lionel Richie? Now, it's very interesting because you have to start thinking about who Lionel Richie is and when he might do reading. So imagine he's been doing a concert. He's been there singing away. He's singing once, twice, 3 times a lady, and then he's going on the tour bus after a brilliant concert. I mean, he's worrying about his voice because he's older and he's not reaching the high notes in the same way, so perhaps he's fluffing them up, so there's some anxiety there. And will he be able to do the next concert? But he's on the tour bus. He's going from Cincinnati to Delaware. I don't know. I don't know whether he would be in both those fine cities. I'm sure he would. But anyway, so there he is on the tour bus and he wants a read. Would you recommend Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel? I'm not sure he would. I mean, he's an entertaining guy. He likes to take it easy on a Sunday morning. He likes ladies 3 times, I gather. He's an interesting guy. He's polite. Is it me you're looking for? He says. But he's also, I mean, he's a party guy, isn't he? He's forever on the ceiling. So you have to think, would he want this book? So even though I thought it was a great read, would I recommend it to Lionel Richie? I'm not sure I would. There are other books that we did recommend to Lionel Richie, and we did actually consider contacting him and recommending the books, but I think we chickened out because we just thought it sounds silly. The other way, so that was one of the things. So at the end of our discussion about the books, we'd say, and would you recommend it to Lionel Richie? And everybody's like, well, I would recommend this to Lionel Richie. I would say, Lionel, this is the book for you. We think this is a tour bus book, or maybe it was a book that would inspire him. He would give him new ideas for songs. He would be back at the top of the charts with his interesting band of pop and soul, and it could be the good old days. This book could be the inspiration for him. So that was one of the ways that we did. Would Lionel Richie like the book? The other way that we recommended books was, how did it make you feel? And the way that we talked about it was, if this book was a date, what kind of date was it? Was it a date that you'd like to be repeated? Or was it a date where you're doing emergency numbers to get somebody to phone you because it's going that badly? Is it a date where you just meet and have a coffee? I mean, you weren't that interested in it to begin with. It sounded interesting. A friend has suggested you meet that book. You like the look of it, but it doesn't really kind of draw you. It doesn't kind of thrill you. So you're meeting that book. You're quite happy. So you arrange for a coffee. Your friend's sat over there. You have the coffee. There's no connection. You're not going to see them again. Or is it a book that you're surprised by? You didn't expect anything, and then and then you're in the taxi on your way home. You've not even bothered with a dessert. One of you suggested that you have dessert at home, and you're in the taxi, and you wake up the next day blushing, wondering why that your knickers are on the ceiling. I mean, maybe that's it with Lionel Richie dancing. But, you know, is it that kind of book, or is it a book that you've met them and you know that book is going to, you know, the date. I mean, it's not a date. It's the beginning of something that is going to last with you forever. And actually, it's an amazing date. It's a wonderful experience. I can't remember the book that somebody described in this way. We had the best descriptions of books. I mean, honestly, we had the best description of A, dates, and B, books with this as a thing. We had this one chap, such a lovely bloke anyway, and we asked him, we said, right, okay, how was your date? And he just went, I met the book, and it was like I didn't know that I didn't have her in my life. It was like I knew her straight away, and we started the date, and then we had, you know, it started as a meal, and then we ended up all night in an all-night diner, just drinking coffee and talking to each other. And then we walked along the embankment by the Thames, and we saw the sun come up, and I looked at her, and that was when we had our first kiss. And she will forever be with me now. That date has changed my life. And we were all like, oh my Lord. A, I want to go on a date with you. And B, what book was it you read? So that's the kind of thing so that to me makes more sense as a rating system. And will make me read the book more than if you give it 3 out of 5. But that's not to say you shouldn't give it 3 out of 5 for yourself in whatever way that you think about it. We've talked about it in comments, and I've said I don't do rating systems, and people have said, oh, I'd be interested in hearing you talk about rating systems. So this is what I've done. So I finish off by saying I love the fact that people do rating systems. I love the fact that people do 3 out of 5 or 3.61 out of 5. My favourite rating ever. But I just offer it to you that perhaps there are different ways, not ways that we can all join in, but perhaps there are different ways of thinking about things, or even thinking about how you feel about a book. Is it the language that draws you, or is it the emotion, or do you always approach books in the same ways, or is it just there are too many variables, as there are too many books for us all to be reading? So anyway, so I hope, BookTube, this is a rambly video, and if you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. I still love watching everybody's videos where they do rating. And would you recommend it to Lionel Richie? That book that you're reading at the moment, would you recommend it to Lionel Richie? Oh, I mean, he's a tricky one. He is a tricky one. I'm not going to lie. He's a tricky one. Yeah. Oh well, BookTube. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well. And then let's do this again.